Hello. Welcome to my channel Touching Stories. You're about to hear an amazing story about love and unexpected decisions. Enjoy watching. Jimmy adjusted his jacket and got into the back seat of the Mercedes. The driver gently pressed the gas. The car drove slowly toward its usual parking lot. Quiet jazz came out of the speakers. The man was deep in thought. He had to tell his daughter that he had found the perfect match for her, and she would soon meet her future husband. Yes, that would be something. Selena had never been a docile person, and Jimmy himself had managed hundreds of subordinates with ease and was even a strict supervisor, but he could not control his own daughter's temper. Her mother would have been proud of her if she were alive. Soon the car stopped at the gate of the two-story mansion. Jimmy had not decided the best moment to tell his daughter. Probably best to do it after dinner. She was usually in a much more nervous mood before meals than after. When he entered Celine's house, she was out of sight, probably minding her own business. Jimmy breathed a sigh of relief and gave his jacket to the housekeeper. "Jimmy, good evening. Dinner will be served in half an hour." The woman shook out her coat and hung it in the check room. "Thank you, Claudia Selena. At your place?" "Yeah. She barely went out today. I could barely get her to eat lunch." "All right. Well, at least something." The man hummed proudly. After changing his clothes, he went down to the table. Claudia, as promised, had already set dinner. Selena wasn't in sight yet. So Jimmy walked up the stairs to the second floor and shouted for his daughter to come down. A few minutes later, the skinny figure of a girl appeared. She was wearing athletic loafers and a sizeless fatty with the emblem of one of the best universities in the country where she used to study. "Selena, what kind of look? Do you look like a teenager? And you've already graduated. Could you wear something a little more feminine?" "Oh, Dad, don't start. You know it's much more comfortable that way. You could try something simpler from your costumes too, by the way. How am I going to show my face in public like this? What would they think of me?" The man laughed. "Well, you will too. Come on, you're a dinosaur modern businessman. Don't wear anything solid. And that doesn't stop them from making 1 billion. It's all empty. Sit down to eat, and would you be so kind as to put the phone away? I'm reading an interesting article here. They say that soon we will all switch to eating candles. Perfect worms. They will make flour out of them. There you go. The whole world already understands that you can't eat meat." The girl moved the dense bowl toward her and put a few leaves on her fork. "Don't turn into a rabbit. Would you love me if I became a rabbit? Don't be silly, Selena. Eat up." As Jimmy supposed, Selena was in good spirits. "We had to seize the moment. Daughter, I've got something serious to talk to you about. I hope this doesn't concern my personal life." The girl straightened her back and frowned her eyebrows. "That's exactly what I want to talk to you about." The man lowered his head in preparation for the flood of criticism directed at him. "I'm not young anymore. You're that age too." "At what age, Dad? Are you telling me that in a few more years they'll call me an old maid?" "Selena, don't start. You know I care about you. That when I was little you didn't care much. And I won't be alone. I have Sam." At that moment the silent housekeeper hurried away. She knew where this was going, and she didn't want to be a witness, much less a reminder of Selena's childhood among the governesses. "This is your Sam. Who is he? You tell me. God forbid something should happen to me. Is this Sam gonna be able to provide for you, or do you plan on living in a dorm with him and getting by on $3 a month? At least Sam really loves me. And by the way, I have an economics degree. I got it myself, so I'll be able to support myself somehow. So I made arrangements with Ernest's son, and you will be there. Otherwise, you'll have to start supporting yourself sooner than you think. Do you understand me?" The man tapped his palm on the table. His daughter was no longer listening. She ran up the stairs to the second floor and slammed the door, shutting herself in her room. Selina opened the window wide and inhaled greedily the evening air. She felt her heart return to its usual rhythm as well. She flopped down on the bed and pulled out her phone. There was no message from Sam. She opened social networking and, flipping through her news feed, soon heard a persistent knock on the door. "Selina, don't you dare slam the door when I'm talking to you." My father's voice sounded menacing and commanding, and to be in a dress tomorrow, not like some teenager. "Do you hear me?" The girl jumped out of bed and walked over to the music player. She pressed the power button and turned the volume all the way up. The room filled with sounds, pipes and noise, and the sea. "I can't hear you, Dad. I'm meditating." The phone in my hand interrupted. Finally, Sam was finished and ready to chat with her. The boy informed her that he wouldn't be able to see her today, but would be happy to see her tomorrow. The girl flipped the phone away and rolled her eyes. Fine. It would be something to do to avoid going to a boring site, down with Eric's parents. Selina remembered meeting Eric at one of the parties at the Institute. He was so drunk that he could barely stand up. And later, Selina saw him hitting on 2 twin girls from the parallel group. When the party was over, she saw her in the bushes at the exit. He seemed to be throwing up. The girl shuddered at the memory. The orange sun was broadcasting the approaching sunset. Selina stood at the closet and picked out an outfit. Among the many baggy clothes hung a few new dresses. Letting her father down would not have been a good idea. Ernest was a normal man, but his wife was a real bitch. She certainly wouldn't be able to keep quiet and say her opinion about Selina's upbringing. The girl pulled out a red floor-length dress with a high neckline on the right leg and put it on. As she looked in the mirror, she remembered a show showing a pig show, and one of the winners wore a bright red ribbon. The girl sat down on the bed and pulled out her phone. The dress sang painfully into her side, straining her lungs. Selina went on social media, typed Eric into her search. The last pictures had him in a club with naked girls. The previous ones had a photo of him on a sandy beach where he was sitting in a lotus pose, and the caption at the bottom was "Transforms Reality." Selina poked and closed the app. The only thing Eric could transform was his father's money to party. The girl tossed the phone on the bed and stood up. Finally, she managed to breathe a full breath. She unzipped and tossed the hated dress to the floor. Well, no, she's not going to hang out with that jerk. Selina pulled a comfortable gray tracksuit out of her closet and cowered in it. A familiar honk sounded at the gate. Looked out the window. Selina saw Sam's car. The girl hastily gathered her hair into a high bun and ran down the stairs. She pulled on a pair of comfortable sneakers from a well-known brand. She jumped out onto the street and headed for her expected boyfriend. The car raced down the highway, soon turning off toward the park. "Sam, can you imagine? We're in the 21st century. And such medieval laws." Selina's voice rose in indignation. "He wants to bring me in like some kind of show choir. I feel like some kind of asset." "I think you're being dramatic. I think your father is worried about you and wants to make a comfortable life for you now that he can. That's impossible. It's a failure. The guy is such a fool. Have you tried talking to your father?" The guy pointed the car to the parking lot. "It's no use. He doesn't listen to me. Anything at all, he threatens to deprive me of my money." That was the end of the conversation. The couple got out of the car and, holding hands, stepped onto the walking path. "Sam, why are you defending my father? Doesn't it bother you that he wants to marry me off to another man?" "I'm not defending him. It's just that it's understandable that he wants the best for you. And let's be honest, you're used to a high standard of living. What can I give you from my cab driver's salary? I love you, so I want you to be happy too. And you think I can only be happy with money?" The girl jerked her hand away from the guy. "I, by the way, am so aware of the world. that money has no value to me at all. The girl pursed her lips in anger and turned away. You're very good, Celine. By the way, how much did your last portrait cost? 2,000 a week. By the way, it's inexpensive for such an event. Well, that's for sure. Except I have to save up for it for a year. The guy tried to look into the girl's eyes. Do you know what I mean? It's all clear with you. You think I'm a spoiled brat, too. You know what? Fine. Take me to the damn restaurant, then. The old car started after the third time. The radio host's voice came through the speakers. It's spring, which means it's time for a change. And we play a song by a movie group. By Selina's hurt look, staring stubbornly out the window and not turning around, Sam concluded that he had failed to make his point. Wanting to make up with his lover Suna, he took her right hand by the arm while his left remained on the steering wheel. Celine, you misunderstood me. I just don't want your father to be mad at you if he puts you under house arrest again. We won't see each other again for a long time. Maybe it's for the best. You won't have to suffer from the thought of how much money it takes to make me happy. Don't start. You know how much I love you, don't you? I know. By the way, what time do I think I left my phone at home? Oh, I think I'm completely late. Jimmy listened to the series of unanswered horns. His daughter didn't pick up, and he sipped his whiskey from his glass and set it on the table, turning to his guests. I can't get through. Suddenly something happened. By God, she'll drive me to my grave one day with her behavior. The man loosened his tie. What can you take from them? They're young. Do you remember what Cassie was like when she was her age? Ah, Ernest, are you trying to smooth things over again? She was my wife, Selina's daughter, and you know how nerve-wracking it is to take care of children. You're right about that, of course. Ernest looked at his son at the table. The boy had been at the club all night and was now nursing a sore head with champagne. So, were you able to get through? The blonde woman, Ernest's wife, spoke. No, I can't get through. A waiter came to the table. How is your evening going? Is there anything I can help you with? Yes. Eric perked up at the table. A bottle of champagne and something seafood, too. I don't know. Make me like it. The waiter nodded and left. I'm going to go have a smoke. Who's with me? I'll go with you, son. The blonde got up from the table and picked up her little purse. There was no one in the smoking room. Eric sat down in one of the padded chairs surrounding the round marble ashtray and rested his head on the padded backrest. Mom, what's the point of this girl anyway? I like my life as it is. I don't think I'm ready for marriage. The boy took a drag and let out a big cloud of watermelon-scented smoke. Eric, don't be an idiot. Family life has nothing to do with it at all. And Dad wants to combine assets with Jimmy. In fact, he's tired of cleaning up after you all the time. He's hoping maybe you'll come to your senses. What are you talking about? I am a gift of fate, not a son at all. Well, of course, the blonde shook off the ashes of her cigarette. Your last stunt when you lost at the casino caused a scandal. Cost him a lot of money. Oh, come on, he won't be poor. That's the kind of reasoning you do that scares him. He no longer wants all of his assets to go to you when he retires. He needs someone to be there for you, to help you. He trusts Jimmy. They're young friends, after all. And his daughter, though she has a temper, but she's got a brain. She won't let it all go to the clubs. She looked reproachfully at her son. Unlike you, another cloud filled the room. So if it doesn't work out with Selina, what then? Then he'll turn everything over to the board, and you and I will stay on the maintenance they'll allocate to us. Mom, by the way, I heard that Selina is dating some guy who works as a loader or a cab driver. A working stiff, basically. So the prospect of content must worry you even more. The woman stood up and straightened her back and headed for the door. "Let's go. And please try not to get drunk." Eric was finishing his last oysters. The decanter of whiskey was empty, and Jessica was nervously looking at the dainty gold watch on his wrist. Well, we had a good time. Ernest's face was red from drinking, and his eyes glittered like two olives. He patted Jimmy on the shoulder, trying to cheer him up and upset his friend's daughter. "Yeah, you tell me. I wanted everything to be beautiful, you know." "Salenka, what's wrong with her?" "Jimmy, you're spoiling her, of course." The blonde's voice sounded irritated, and each word came out separately from the others. "Jessica, what is it?" Ernest Petrovich's red face stretched into a smile. "What about me?" "No, Jimmy, you got me right. Get me right. Get me right. Come on, us. I mean, we've known you for 100 years. What if it had been other people? You know how embarrassed you'd be. That means you can't even control your daughter." "Jessica, don't start." "Oh, Ernest, give me a break." The blonde waved her husband off and crossed her arms over her chest. "Oh, really? We've been getting ready all day." She ran her hand through her beautifully coiffed hair. "We canceled our plans." "So, just wasted time?" "No, Ernest. She's right. I'll get her." The man thumped his fist lightly on the table. The unsuccessful matchmakers left first. Jimmy waited for a message from his driver that he'd already pulled up and stepped outside. The fresh evening air made his eyes follow. As he blinked to himself and looked out for the driver's car, he noticed a familiar old car parked outside the restaurant. He had seen it more than once in front of his house. It couldn't have been a coincidence. This Sam would never be able to afford dinner at a restaurant like this. A familiar figure appeared in the front seat in a gray fatty. Oh shit, oh shit. The blood boiled in the man's veins. He clenched his fists and headed for the car. He jerked the door handles, but as luck would have it, it jammed. What kind of Colima was this? The man had to pull the handle several times before the door opened. "Ah, there you are, my daughter. Sorry, I forgot my phone at home." "You forgot your phone." "Well, it's no big deal." Jimmy's voice sounded pretend kind. "Come on, my car's here and I'll drop you off where you left it." "Dad, Sam is driving me. I'm just late." "I said quickly get in my car," the man said. His daughter's behavior pissed him off. She's always getting in the way of everything she says. She's sitting with that pauper, too. She shows her temper. "I've been blushing for you all night, by the way." "Hello?" Jimmy gave the word of Sam. "Really, I wanted to come. We were just late." The car let me down. Took a long time to start. "Sam, right?" The guy nodded. "Sam, will you stay out of this, please, and go where you're going? I'll deal with my daughter on my own. After all, she's still in my care. So you go." The man roughly took his daughter under the elbow and pulled her out of the car. She almost fell over, but still managed to keep her footing. Jimmy slammed the door of the old car loudly and led his daughter away into the interior of his car. A helpful driver in a suit had already opened the back door for them. That was the last straw. This Sam, who had come out of nowhere, was ruining everything. We should have helped him disappear. There was only one person to solve this problem, the head of security working for Jimmy. Assured the man he knew how to do it. He suggested several options. Jimmy chose the one where the guy would lose his car. As far as he remembered from his conversations with his daughter, he liked this Colima very much and had been saving up for it for a long time. Especially if he loses the car, he won't be able to work as a cab driver. That should get him out of town. Just the name of the guys my Salenka doesn't know. Otherwise, if she finds out, she'll make my life so sweet. And boys, look, don't let me down. I don't want her to feel sorry for him. Otherwise, I won't get rid of it for sure. Sure, Jimmy. Just scare him and we'll do it right. I've got guys I know. I can vouch for them. All right, get to work. Selina finished her meditation. She drank from a clear plastic bottle of water with lemon and mint. She was determined not to put the conversation with her father on hold. The girl ran down the steps to the first floor and found her father. He was lying on the couch, reading the latest issue of Forbes magazine. "Dad, I want to talk to you." Selina sat down on the couch next to her father and twirled a strand of hair around her finger. "What is it?" "I need to withdraw some money from my card." The girl averted her eyes to the side a little. "How much and for what?" "It's for one good case. 1,200 or so." Selina tried very hard to say it casually, but her voice treacherously shook. "What kind of a good cause is this? Are you going on some kind of shamanistic course in Goa again?" "You just flew in." My father put the magazine aside and sat up in a higher chair. "No, it's just that something happened there." "Where is it? What happened? Don't tell me you got into something." "No, Dad." Jimmy interrupted the phone, and when he read the message he received, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. "So go on. Where were we?" "Dad, I need that money for a good cause." "What do you need money for?" "Okay, forget it." The meditation effect evaporated, and a lump of resentment came to the girl's throat. She turned away, trying to hide the tears in her eyes from her father. "Selina, God. What happened?" "Sam, some bandits are blackmailing me. I thought you were the only one who could help." "Bandits? And what did he ask for, money?" "No, of course he doesn't know. They want to take the car away from him. I think that would save him the trouble." "What happened?" "He says his car was overtaken and braked right in front of him, and he didn't make it in time. And there was an accident. There were some thugs there, and now they want his car as compensation. And he works in it, that car. He's going to be out of a job," the girl exclaimed. "And then for sure he will go to his village. And you figured your daddy would pay for your boyfriend who doesn't know where the brake pedal is. Tough times are good for men, and don't let me hear any more about it." Selina stood up abruptly, threw her hair back, and headed resolutely to her room. Her worst prognosis had come true. Sam wrote that the car had to be given away. Now he is going to go to the village, where he had a small house allocated to him as an orphan. Well, if that's the case, she'll go with him. The girl took a large lilac suitcase out of the closet and began to put in the things that came to hand. There was a knock at the door. Selina quickly kicked the suitcase under the bed. If her father had realized what she was up to, he would have locked it for sure. The door opened ajar. Claudia's red-headed head appeared in the opening. The woman carefully entered the room with a stack of fresh towels in her hands. "Celine, I'll put them away in the closet. Are you going to lunch?" She went to the closet and opened the door. When she saw things hanging carelessly from the hangers, and some of them lying around, falling out of their places, the woman looked at Selina in surprise. Which was what? But I couldn't blame the girl for not being neat. She always had everything in its place. "Selina, what's the matter?" The dear woman approached Selina, whom she had cared for many years, and took her by the shoulders and looked into her eyes. They filled with tears. Claudia saw the corner of the suitcase sticking out from under the bed and turned to the door. She went to the open door and quietly closed it. She came back to the girl, sat down on the edge of the bed, and invited her to sit down next to her with a gesture. "Well, my dear, tell me what you are up to." "We're going to our village." "He has problems in the city," the girl exclaimed. "And you're going to run away with him? Am I reading this right?" "Yes. But my father, if he finds out I'm forbidden, that's for sure. So, honey, what are you going to do in that village? It's boring. It's not as great as it seems at first glance. Life in the countryside is hard work. You have to work physically hard. And you can't even cook." "I don't know. I'll think of something." "You don't think I can even do that?" "My darling." The woman stroked Selina's hand. I can't even think of such a thing. You can handle everything. But it might be a hard test. What if your Sam gets another job in town? Besides, it's a big step. My dad won't be happy. I'm sure he would. Are you sure you want to do this? I'm not sure. But it seems to me that if I don't do it now, I will forever remain a puppet in his hands. A bird in a golden cage. He doesn't take me seriously at all. Doesn't see that I've grown up. Well, what does your Sam say? He says not to worry. We'll get through this. But it's good if it is. Look, my dad's probably going to be pissed. As soon as he finds out you're gone, the first thing he'll do is block your bank cards. So take all the cash you have. By the way, leave the cards at home. Because as soon as you use it somewhere, he will immediately see your location. How do you know all this? I like to watch detectives. The woman grinned, and something else. Do you remember when you were 13? I taught you how to cook. I almost burned down the kitchen. Exactly, Celine. This is very serious. Be careful. Your house is probably made of wood. The fire department will be here by then. Everything could burn down. When you cook, try not to be distracted. So what else? The woman bent down and took out a suitcase from under the bed. Take some warm clothes. There can be drafts at home. They are very dangerous. And here's more. The woman took denim shorts out of the suitcase. Put them back in. See, Len, if you walk on the grass, you can catch a tick. So do not open your legs. If you go to the nature, Claudia, what would I do without you? I don't know. I'd be lost. The woman laughed. All right, get ready. Selina reviewed her closet and grabbed more warm clothes so her father wouldn't guess too soon about her escape. She arranged with Sam to meet her at the bus stop. When all the things were ready, Selina took another look at herself in the mirror. Her face didn't look determined. Rather, a mask of fear of change froze over it. Phone vibrated, alerting that the guy was already standing at the bus stop. Selina walked quietly down the stairs on the side of the courtyard. There, Claudia caught up with her. The woman had a book in her hands. Selina, take this with you. It's a cookbook. I got it from my mother. There are a lot of simple recipes in it. Oh, Claudia, this is a very valuable gift. I thought I would make do with recipes from the internet. You won't have internet there, Dopey. My girl, good luck, come back soon. Thank you, Claudia. The girl wrapped the woman tightly in her arms. Silently opening the door in the backyard, Selina stepped over the threshold. The door closed automatically behind her. Near the main entrance stood Sam. He waved and headed towards her. There was a smile on his face. Selina put her finger to her lips, telling him to be quiet. The pair quickly made it to the bus station, where they boarded a long-distance bus. The girl looked out the window, shaking her leg nervously. The bus didn't make it out of the city. How she got a message from Selina's father. I'm ashamed of you. You ran away like a rat without even saying goodbye. Live as you please. Next came the notice from the bank that her accounts had been frozen. Tears streamed down the girl's cheeks, and she turned to the window. Claudia had been right. Life in the countryside was very different from the usual city life. Selina had to learn a lot. Simona had to learn a lot. Sam quickly found a job at one of the firms. He left early in the morning and returned when it was already dark outside the window. Claudia wasn't wrong about the internet either. She could only get it at the local grocery store, which was about a 10-minute walk from the house. So the book of recipes that she gave the girl was a real salvation. It was detailed in the minutes. What to put in, how much to fry, how much to boil, and in general, all the details. It didn't always work the first time. The first couple of months, they were always eating food that was burnt or salty. But Selina tried very hard to be a decent hostess and help Sam. The girl recalled clips from the internet where they offered eggs, poached eggs, toast, and avocados for breakfast. She used to love that kind of breakfast, but now it seemed like some kind of silly lie. She used to get scrambled eggs and sandwiches, tea and porridge for breakfast. It was a good enough breakfast, but by lunchtime she was starving, since physical work required a lot of energy. At first she was afraid she would get fat, but in the end her clothes, on the contrary, became too big for her. Their washing machine was rusty. Things should have been thrown into the vertical centrifuge, where they were washed for a while. But the spin cycle was manual. Selina had never seen such a machine before. Clothes were shoved between two cylinders, and a handle was used to rotate them. That's how the water was squeezed out of the clothes. Sam stretched the ropes and made a selection from a long wooden beam. After drying in the fresh air, the clothes smelled especially nice. Closer to summer, fresh vegetables from the new crop began to appear in the local stores and Sunday fairs. Selina had nothing to boast about in this regard. She had tried to plant some crops in early spring, but nothing ended up sprouting. The only things that did sprout in her small garden at home were lettuce, trofe, and onions. The girl once bragged about these achievements to the local saleswoman, with whom they sometimes exchanged a few phrases. But the woman said it would sprout anywhere. Selina wasn't upset by that. She looked at her young seedlings as if they were her own children and was proud of every new inch of height. Jimmy couldn't find his place. At first, when he realized his daughter had run off with that ragamuffin, he was furious, saying silly things to her. He almost fired Claudia. At first, he tried not to think about Selina, though it did not work out well. The man immersed himself in work, returning late at night. But his age was taking its toll, and after a month, he began to suffer from migraine. The body asked for a rest. Then Jimmy returned to the old schedule, and with the new hours of rest came thoughts of his daughter. To distract his friend, Ernest invited him for a walk to the golf club. "No, Ernest, you tell me what I'm doing wrong." "It's not like I told her not to do anything. She just ran away." "Oh, with whom?" "Oh, if only for whom?" "Jimmy, but you're wrong. She showed a lot of guts. She had to dare to go to some remote village from under her father's wing. As I understand it, something happened to the guy there." "Oh, don't even remind me. You see, the girl has grown up." "What's the big deal?" "Honestly, I hope she comes home soon. I'm worried about how she's doing. God, she's a greenhouse girl. I've never been out in nature. Beyond her red blood cells on the islands." "What do they eat, I'm afraid to imagine?" The man laughed. "That type of personality would have played right into your hands." The man sighed heavily and sat down on a nearby bench. "Ernest, how are you? Are you pale?" "Pressure." "Should I call for a nurse?" No. Jimmy, don't. Let's just sit for a while." "I don't like the way you look. What's wrong with you?" "Cancer eye." Man lowered his head and closed his eyes. "I just found out the other day." "How could this be? Can anything be done?" "Yes, you can. Doctors say I should have an operation, but I haven't decided yet." "What are you waiting for?" "Yeah, I'm afraid of surgery. I don't know." "What about now? What to do now?" "Why don't you give me a ride home? I have these attacks sometimes. It feels like my whole body hurts, but after an hour it goes away." The news of his best friend's illness settled even more. Anxiety in Jimmy's heart. The man feared for his daughter's health. Fortunately, through his connections, he quickly found the address where she lived and sent his driver there. When he returned, he told him that the house where Selina lived was flimsy, with 3 miserable saplings in the yard. And in general, the picture looks depressing. He had only glimpsed the girl herself when she was cooking in the kitchen window, but he had to hide to avoid being seen. Well, if there is such a gloomy picture, it means that the daughter is sure to return, so on. 2 months later, however, nothing had changed. Selina was gone, and a driver sent to investigate told him that everything seemed to be settling down there. He saw that a small plot of land with townships covered with even rows of sprouts in the yard, drying laundry. Around the plot, the apple trees were snagged. Could the daughter really cope with such a life? There's the whole mother thing. On the one hand, Jimmy was somehow even proud of his daughter, but on the other he was disappointed. He saw her life very differently. All those years he'd worked without sleep or rest, depriving himself of the chance to see her grow up. All to provide the easy life he didn't have. And now what? She would live in the countryside, weeding beds and outraging some Sam. The man's indignation reached such a point that he decided to go to the village himself and explain everything. Sam in person, since he's so impenetrable. The drum of the washing machine made a sound and stopped. Selina put the vegetables aside and went to see what was wrong. There was no external change, but the drum did not want to spin. The girl pressed the power button twice, but that didn't help either. Sam, something happened to the washing machine. The voice came from the back room, where the guy was hard at work fixing something. Doesn't spin. Let me see. Sam appeared in the kitchen with a stool in his hands. I'll put it here for now, but don't sit on it. The leg isn't attached yet. It smells so good. This is me making soup. I'm sure I'll make it this time. The boy kissed Selina tenderly and began to inspect the washing machine. Selina, I don't want to upset you, but it looks like we'll have to take it apart in two and put the thing somewhere else for now. Give it to me. The girl reached for the big metal pelvis all hooked up. Her eyes went black and she almost fell over. Sam, seeing this, managed to pick her up. Hey, are you sick? I think it's all gone now. Probably from hunger. I'm already hungry. Watch me. Don't you dare go off. The boy took the basin from her hands and used long wooden sticks to shift the stuff out of the hot water. The result was a huge pile of multicolored wet rags. It didn't look pretty. To top it all off, it smelled strongly of laundry detergent. She decided she had overdone the amount of detergent. Her stomach let out a hungry groan, and Selina hurried back to cooking. There was a grumble of vegetables in the frying pan. The potatoes had already gone into the pot of water. Oh, shit, Sam cursed and jumped up from his knees. He clutched his arm and paced back and forth. What happened? I cut myself. I had to. Sam, you need to treat the wound. I'll take a look. The boy held out his hand and clenched his fist. The wound was deep. I'll have to dress it. You got a lot of dirt around it, don't you? Don't worry about it. I'll wash it right away. It'll be all right. We'll just have to rewrap it. The girl opened her medicine drawer and pulled out a bandage. Look, there's also rubbing alcohol. And there's nothing else. How about peroxide? No, we're all out. I'll have to use alcohol. Selina took out a dark vial and opened it to take a sniff. It's definitely alcohol. Go outside. It stinks in here now. A jet of cold water washed away most of the dirt, but I still had to treat it. Sam decided to step away from the kitchen window so Selina wouldn't see him get hurt. So he went around the corner. The alcohol hit the open wound. The searing pain made Sam forget for a second who he was and where he was. At that time, a black Mercedes pulled up at the gate of the house. Selina saw the car when her father was already standing at the front door. The girl was confused with excitement and hurriedly turned off the frying pan. She went to the door, swinging it open. On the threshold stood her father. She took a step back, not sure what to say. Are you going to invite Batu into the house? Yes, of course. Papa, come in. Selina stepped away from the door and watched her father walk into the kitchen in his expensive suit. It looked so out of harmony that at that moment the whole house began to seem half destroyed. Her father furrowed his eyebrows as he contemplated the dwelling. So, that's how you're settled in, huh? Well, it's a nice place you have here. The man looked at the pile of wet laundry and grunted. It's our washing machine that's broken. Sam is fixing it. Selina looked at him apprehensively. She was glad to see her father, but his face was not friendly. The girl didn't know what to expect from him. At that moment, she smelled Gorolov. She turned to the stove. With horror, she realized that she had mixed it up by turning the power onto maximum. The carrot turned black. The kitchen was engulfed in gray smoke. Selena hurriedly turned it off, convinced this time that she had done everything right. She opened the window to air it out. The kitchen now smelled of laundry detergent. Jimmy's daughter watched this kitchen collapse with a pleasant sense of satisfaction. "Maybe you shouldn't have called ahead to let me know you were coming. I don't seem to be on time, only you can't get a phone signal in the middle of nowhere. And you don't call your father yourself." I'm mad at the old man. The man took the first stool he could find and sat on it. "Dad, it's okay. It's just that I'm cooking and the washing machine is broken. It's a mess. But I can see that." There was a smile on Jimmy's face. "Where's Sam?" "Hello." Sam appeared in the doorway with a bandaged arm. He stepped forward into the kitchen, and with him the strong smell of alcohol entered. "Wow, Sam, is that why you started drinking?" "No, I just hurt my hand." Selena realized she couldn't breathe. The scent of alcohol added to the other unpleasant smells, creating a horrible mix. She felt her saliva rising and she felt nauseous in her throat. Wasting no time, she ran to the bathroom. She vomited and felt relief in her stomach. When she came to her senses, washed her face with cold water, and came out, she was met by the concerned faces of her father and her fiancé. "I must have eaten something wrong." Selena timidly fixed her hair. "I'm glad to see you. I'm sorry we had such a mess. Things didn't go according to plan today." "Daughter, it's all right, my dear, as long as you're healthy." "Oh, Daddy, that chair." Before Selena could finish her sentence, the leg of the chair sagged and the man fell to the floor. There was a tense silence in the air. It was broken. Jimmy looked at his daughter in confusion. He couldn't help himself and laughed. "Selena, are you taking me to the grave?" Selena and Sam rushed to lift the man up. "It's been a long time since I've experienced that." "Okay, tell me, how do you live here?" "Yeah, not bad. I've got some lettuce growing over there." The girl pointed her finger out the window at the flat green beds. "He's the one who made you sick." "No, Dad. He's okay, really. I meditate when I do it, and it's eco-friendly." "That's good, of course." The man shifted his gaze to his daughter's bow. "But you, Sam, what's your story? You and I don't even know each other very well. Tell me about yourself." The boy brought the man another chair, the sturdiest one he had in the house. Selena brewed mint tea and poured it into mugs. "So, Sam, tell me about your parents." "Well, I don't know my father, and my mother died when I was little. I was 3 years old at the time. She was in a car accident and they couldn't save her. My condolences." "No, it's okay. I don't really remember her." "Who brought you up? Do you have any relatives?" "No, I'm not sure." Sam put his mug of tea on the table. "I guess they would have found me if someone had. I went to an orphanage after my mom died, and that's where I grew up. I got the house as an orphan, by the way." "Not a lot." The man took another look around the building. "I'm not complaining. Many people don't get that either, even those who live with their parents." "You're right." The man nodded and sipped his tea, remembering how he and a friend had rented the same small room with bedbugs in the dorm. "What was your mother's name? What was your last name? Can we look for your relatives?" "Cheryl Stone." "I just don't know who I can find now. And do I have to? I've got a guy over there who took Selena's hand. I have someone to take care of." When the man heard Sam's mother's name, he looked intently into the boy's face and suddenly hurried to get ready to leave. Selena thought he knew something. "What happened? Are you leaving already?" "Yes, Celine. Why should I interrupt you? You've got a lot to do because of me, haven't you? Come on, be good. Stop playing Romeo and Juliet. Go back to town. We'll think about it, sweetheart. Jimmy went over to his daughter and hugged her. I miss you, come back. The man shook the boy's hand and ran out the door and quickly headed for the car. What was that about? The guy didn't think their meeting would end like this. The guy didn't think their meeting would end so soon? I don't know. Maybe I remembered something. Sam, there's something more important right now. I think I'm pregnant. As soon as the phone showed signs of a cellular network, the man dialed Ernest. As the receiver beeped, he loosened his tie and unbuttoned the top button of his shirt. Hello, Ernest. How are you while you're still alive? What's the matter, Jimmy? You look a little agitated, Ernest. This guy, Sam, I found out who his mother is. You wouldn't believe it. At first I thought it was a coincidence. But then I look at him, and he looks just like the little guy. Well, maybe it's just my imagination. I was still worried when I saw Celine, of course. It could have been. God, hurry up already. I'm not going to die. Not recognizing this secret, the man coughed into the tube. Anyway, I'll tell it like it is. His mother is Cheryl Stone. It could be a coincidence. The man's voice got lower. Maybe, but it wasn't until I looked at him more closely that I realized he was you when you were young. It can't be. There you go. That's what I thought. Don't you remember? Cheryl wasn't pregnant at the time. I don't know what to do now. Order a DNA test. Have them do it. You'll know for sure. That's a good idea. What about Cheryl? Where is she? Yes, she died in a car accident. Thank you for calling. 2 weeks later, the test results came back to Ernest. Sam turned out to be his son. The man was shocked by the news and rushed to the village to meet him. When his mother abruptly opened the door and walked into the room, Eric knew at once that things were bad. There was a look of anger on her face. The boy quickly turned the poker page and turned away from the computer. Mom, is something wrong? What happened, Eric? Happened. The woman went to the window and opened it, breathing in the fresh air. What happened, son, is that your father found his own son, and now he's gone to meet him. How's that? Who's the son? There you go. When I met him, he was dating a Cheryl girl. But he ended up staying with me. And this Cheryl girl, apparently, was already pregnant. Oh, what's going to happen now? The woman covered her face with her hands. Mom, why do you care so much? After all, he has lived with us all his life. Are you afraid that he'll leave? But he loves you. Oh, Eric, don't be silly. I'm not afraid of him leaving me. All the more reason why this Cheryl was dead. The woman turned to face her son and crossed her arms over her chest. It's just all we've got. Makes you question everything, you know. I don't get it. I think you're winding it up. The guy took a grape, a wine from the fruit vase on the computer table, and popped it in his mouth. Do you need a distraction? Let's go to the spa. Let's go. Eric, well, who are you such an idiot? If he has a native son, then think about who gets all the inheritance if your father dies. What do you mean? The guy sputtered out in his chair. What you heard, you are not the native son. So you have less right to inherit than your own son. Especially knowing Ernest. He's such a kind man. He's sure to be tormented with conscience about not knowing about his son for so many years now, trying to make amends. He's not going to throw us out on the street, is he? No, of course not. But we don't know his son. Who knows what's on his mind? If Ernest dies, we don't know what will happen to us. What are we going to do? The woman fingers in the white nature of her hair. We need to get rid of him. Eric, don't be silly. Do you think you're a murderer? No. We don't have to kill anybody. All right. Don't worry about it before it's too late. We'll just take it as we go. A couple of days later, Ernest persuaded Sam to come visit. What hadn't happened to him in a long time. Eric watched his non-native father's demeanor and his upbeat attitude. Annoyed the lad. For 2 days now, all he'd talked about was his wonderful son. Ernest asked Eric to find some common ground with the boy. The mother had been drinking these 2 days. She booked a massage service, and the young masseurs closed in with her in the large bathroom. Father sat in the living room, drinking coffee, and occasionally got up and went to the window that gave him a view of the yard, looking at the driver's car. Eric went into his room, figuring out what he should wear. Decided it would be nice if the new potential family member liked him. He pulled out his lucky fatty, which had Vegas 2015 written on it in black rhinestones. He had won it in Las Vegas the first time he was there and believed it brought him luck. Walking out into the hallway, Eric ran into the massasato, who had finished his treatments and was about to leave. "Well, tell me what I look like." The guy spun everything in front of the tired girl. "You look great." The girl fixed a large amount of space and accessories and smiled timidly. "Can I come in? Would you like to stay for dinner with us?" "Thanks, Eric, but I have another client waiting for me." "Wow, businesswoman. Wow." Eric came close to the girl and whispered in her ear, "Next time, don't plan anything." She didn't say anything after that, and with her head sideways down, jumped past him. How uptight are these girls? You can't even make a joke. The boy ran to the first floor and approached his father. "Dad, when is your son going to get here?" "Eric is unknown. I think it won't be long now. There's already lunch set up in the backyard. I'm starving." "Oh, look at that." Here come the guests. The metal gates slowly parted in different directions, and the driver's car drove onto the property. Father became walking to the center of the room, looked up to the second floor. "Jessica, he's here. Where are you?" And then she herself appeared on the second floor steps. She was wearing an elegant white suit. Her blonde hair was styled in light waves, and she wore a gold-framed watch, beautifully accentuating her golden tan. "Jessica, you look gorgeous." Her father gave her a hand as she went downstairs, and they walked toward the main door. Eric didn't lag behind. He followed his parents. They were approached by a slender guy of medium height. He was dressed all gray and unremarkable, Sam. His father spread his arms in greeting. "How glad I am that you came. I want you to meet my family." He hugged the boy tightly and introduced him. "This is Jessica, my wife. This is Eric." Eric's son nodded hello. "Sam, I hope you're hungry." We asked for a table to be set up in the backyard, and Jessica hesitated to hug a guy she didn't know, and a blush played on her face. With a gesture, she invited everyone to come to the table. The introduction went well, and even too well. Sam's father seemed to be on the same page. The light white wine eased the tension, and the conversation flowed like a river. Ernest and Sam picked up on each other's jokes, and were like two peas in a pod, one still young and the other sadly old, wrinkled and dying. In the evening, when Sam left, Eric grew gloomy and decided to switch from wine to something stronger. He went down to the wine cellar, walked over to the cabinet where the whiskey was kept. The guy was just holding a bottle with a coat of arms in it, when his mother's voice sounded behind him. "And pour me one." The mascara on the woman's eyes was slightly smeared. "This is the end, Eric. Have you seen how they communicate?" "Yes, I did." The guy exhaled and took a swig of his drink from his whiskey glass. "We have to get rid of him." "Son." After Sam found out that his sweetheart was pregnant, he insisted that they return to town. Selena refused at first. She tried to explain that she liked living away from the city, and she was already used to her vegetable gardens with lettuce. But after one rainy day, they got soaked through. The girl gave up. All evening, Sam wrestled her away for hours, just so she wouldn't get sick and nothing would happen to the baby. Her father insisted that they live with him and gave them the right wing of the house. All their belongings fit in one car sent by her father. Selena persuaded Sam to take at least one bush of lettuce with her. She prepared a large pot and carefully transplanted the plants there. She asked them not to talk about the pregnancy yet. She wanted to get her routine settled first, and Sam's father and he found some common ground. Selina spent a lot of time with Claudia, her father, and Sam often went to Ernest's house, often staying with him until the evening. You must miss Sam. He's at Ernest's all day. They were pulling up in front of the house when my father decided to make conversation. Well, I miss him, of course. Well, what can you do? I can understand him. I've been alone all my life. And then there's the news. Ernest is also preparing for the operation. Who knows how it'll go? It's good that you understand that, daughter. The only thing I'm worried about is that Eric is always around. I don't like him. He's kind of sneaky or something. Don't think about him. You know, I thought I'd make you happy. I have a surprise for you. Oh, what is that? You'll see for yourself. The car drove into the gate of the house, and Selina saw the animation in the backyard. Workers in orange uniforms flashed by. What's that over there? I hope it's not just, if anything, outgrew that idea 15 years ago. No, the man laughed. Better come, I'll show you. Selina hurriedly jumped out of the car as soon as it stopped and headed toward the backyard. As she got closer, she saw workers digging beds for her. I thought you might want to grow your own lettuce here. Her father put his arm around her shoulders. Dad, thank you. That's very sweet. There were tears in the girl's eyes. Oops. Is that a phone call for you? Right. Selina took the phone out of Jean's pocket. It's Sam. After a minute of talking, Selina walked down to the lawn, sitting right on the grass. Daughter, what is it? You're as white as a wall. The man ran to the door to the house and called out to the housekeeper. Claudia, fetch some water. Selina's not feeling well. Sam is in the detention center. How's that? For what? They say they found illegal drugs in his possession. But how, I don't understand. He's not using. Selina, drink some water. Claudia brought the glass to the girl's pale lips. Daughter, I will do everything in my power. Mom, I've made up my mind. Eric ran into the hall and found his mother with a glass of wine in her hand. What have you decided, son? I made up my mind. That Sam is no longer a problem for us. Pour it. I need to celebrate, too. Wow, my darling, that's great. The woman pulled out a second glass on a long, thin stem and filled it with red wine. What about the father? They've already started the operation. He should wake up tomorrow. How'd you get rid of the kid? Yeah, I got a friend of mine. They planted something illegal on him, white powder. I had to spend a lot of money, of course, to get the dose right, but it was worth it. Now he's doing a lot of time. Well done, son. The woman's face went a little bit, and from the beer a few drops spilled from the glass onto her white blouse. And he can't get out. He won't know it's me. Besides, I know so many people there, and no one can get him out of there. He's totally screwed. Well, that's great. My son, what a good boy you are. The woman hugged her son, and he felt the drunken, warm breath on his neck. As long as you're doing well, that's all I want. Tears glistened in my glassy, drunken eyes. Mom, it's time for you to lie down. Come on, let's go. I'll walk you out. Ernest didn't wake up until 4 days later. The doctor said the operation was successful, but he was very weak. When Ernest and his mother entered the room, he was confused. He had never seen his father in such a bad condition. Various catheters and tubes were connected to him. His skin was pale gray, as if there was no life left in him at all. The man struggled to open his eyes and tried to sit up, but a nurse standing by the bed stopped him. Jessica, Eric, are you here? Oh, Ernest, you are still so weak. The woman went to her husband and stroked his forehead. Where's Sam? He's in the hallway. The blonde girl blinked and looked down. Hey, Father. Forgive us. Eric came closer and sat down so he could hear better. We couldn't find him. He'd been on a bender the last few days. I guess the kid got a taste of the money. I'm sorry to hear that. How come? He turned out to be such a nice guy. Maybe Jimmy should call. I'm sure he knows something. We already called Dad. I'm sorry you were so wrong about him. But Mom and I are here. That's for sure, my dear ones. The man closed his eyes tiredly and fell asleep. Jessica stroked her husband's hand in farewell, and they left the room. Eric, he doesn't look good. I have a bad feeling about this. Maybe, on the contrary, things are working out for the best. Ernest's condition worsened, and he was no longer allowed to see him. A few days later, Jessica received a call from the hospital on her phone. She was told that her husband had slipped into a coma. Upon hearing the news, Eric opened a bottle of champagne. The guy turned on some electronic music in the living room and put on his Happy Fatty. Everything is working out in the best way. He handed the woman his filled glass. Don't be a jerk. It's not time for champagne yet. Don't be sad. I already poured. I'll be an old widow now, who will need me if Ernest dies. What are you getting upset about? We'll find you a new fiancé, some young cha-cha. You'll travel all the time. The woman imagined herself on the sandy beach of the Caribbean islands in her arms. She sighed heavily and drank her glass in a gulp. When Eric opened his eyes the next day, his head cracked. His mouth was dry, his nose was stuffy. He realized he had stayed asleep on the couch. Never made it to his bed. Eric, my son. Mom was coming down hard from the second floor. She was so wrinkled that she looked about 10 years older. Son, I have some bad news. I just got a call from your father's lawyer. The woman poured herself a glass of water and drained it in a gulp. He's thought of everything, Ernest. He's ahead of us. What do you mean? Oh, my head was pounding. She sat down in a deep chair by the window and wiped her face with her palms. He wrote a will in the event of his death. His entire inheritance goes to his own son. Don't look. That's how it's all certified. When the hell did he have time? Only if Sam is in jail. Then he'll get his whole inheritance when he does his time. And we'd be left with a hole in the ground. The woman folded a circle of her fingers and put it to her eye. There you go, son. Eric sat down on the high bar stool and pounded his fist on the table. The old man always liked to overreact, and even now, lying in a coma, overtook him. We'd have to let the bastard go. Everything was going so well. You're lucky we found out about it in time. If the lawyer hadn't called, we'd be out on the street. A black Mercedes pulled up in front of a gray building with bars on the windows. A door opened in the tall gate, and Sam stepped out. Selina noticed that he had lost a lot of weight in the meantime. She rushed toward him and embraced him. Sam, I missed you so much. How did I miss it? We tried everything we could to get you out. I don't know who set you up, but it was some serious people. My father pulled all his strings, and it didn't work. Thank God it was over. How is our baby doing? What baby? Jimmy only had time to reach the couple in love. Dad, this probably isn't the best place for this kind of news, but I'm pregnant. The next few months flew by unnoticed. Sam visited his comatose father almost every day. He longed for the father he'd grown so close to, and immediately he could lose him again. Selina, meanwhile, was organizing the wedding. The girl decided that she did not want a feast for the whole world and decided to organize everything near the house. She could not figure out where to place the stage with the musicians. After all, she had planted her backyard practically with all kinds of plants. Fortunately, Ernest came to his senses after all. He was happy to see Sam and said he had heard him talking to him and telling him what he was going through now and how his childhood was going. Selina didn't believe it at first, but Sam told him that his father had suggested a wedding at his house. There was a bigger plot there. After Ernest came to his senses and found out that his wife and son hadn't visited him, he asked them to move into the apartment he had inherited from his parents. The repairs there, of course, were not up to the latest fashion sand, but it was livable.